It was a love story dressed in glamour, luxury, and impossible charm. On the surface, Simon Leviev appeared to be the perfect match on Tinder, a charismatic young billionaire photographed aboard private jets, dressed in designer suits and moving through the world as though nothing could touch him. To the women who matched with him, he represented the kind of romance they had always hoped for, a man who seemed to understand their hearts as easily as he navigated his wealthy lifestyle. Yet behind this fairy tale shimmered a truth darker than any of them could have imagined. The romance they believed in was nothing more than the opening act of one of the most elaborate frauds of the digital age. The very thing that drew them in, love, became the very weapon that destroyed their financial security, emotional stability, and sense of trust. Shimon Hayut's early life. Before he became Simon Leviev, the jet-setting heir to a diamond empire, he was Shimon Hayut, a boy born in 1990 in Bnei Brak, Israel. He did not grow up surrounded by private jets or wealth. Instead, his early years were marked by restlessness, ambition, and an unusual fascination with the trappings of luxury. People around him recalled how even as a child he was drawn to symbols of wealth. He studied the appearance of success long before he ever tasted it, observing what made someone look powerful, important, or enviable. By his teenage years, those fantasies evolved into deception. He began forging checks, stealing identities, and leaving behind small scraps of fraud that hinted at the person he was becoming. These early crimes were not enough to stop him, but they were enough to show the beginnings of a pattern. Charm blended with manipulation, confidence overlapping with lies. Eventually, he moved to Finland, where he scammed families by posing as a trustworthy babysitter. Parents believed he was taking care of their children, unaware he was secretly exploiting their trust and draining their accounts. He was arrested in 2015, sentenced to prison, and released earlier than expected. Instead of facing his charges in Israel, he fled the country and reinvented himself once more. This time, he did not simply change his name. He built an entirely new identity centered around wealth, influence, and luxury. This was the birth of Simon Leviev, becoming the Prince of Diamonds. Under his new identity, he claimed to be the son of Lev Leviev, a real diamond billionaire with global influence. Although he had no connection to the family, he constructed a world convincing enough to make almost anyone believe him. His social media became a carefully staged stage set, filled with luxury cars, exotic destinations, glamorous dinners, and photos designed to imply endless wealth. Each post served a purpose. Each detail supported the illusion. He created an entire digital life that showed him as powerful, generous, and constantly on the move. The more extravagant it appeared, the more believable it became. Dating apps became the perfect ecosystem for this charade. They were not just places for companionship anymore. They were gateways to possibility. Women swiped through profiles looking for stability, connection, and something real. When they matched with him, he seemed like everything they had been searching for. He was attentive, romantic, and surprisingly vulnerable. He spoke about his demanding job, his high-risk lifestyle, and the pressure of being born into a diamond dynasty. He offered affection wrapped in adventure, stories wrapped in danger, and a future that seemed almost too good to be true. And that was the point. The illusion worked because it was designed to. How love became his currency. Once these women fell for the persona he created, Simon began turning affection into leverage. He started with grand gestures, flying them to foreign countries, taking them to extravagant dinners, and surrounding them with a lifestyle that felt cinematic. These acts were not gifts, they were investments. He used the money stolen from one woman to impress the next, always making sure that his victims saw the luxury he claimed to own. When the love was established, he introduced crisis. He spoke about enemies, business rivals, and threats that forced him to rely on secrecy. He claimed his cards were compromised, his accounts frozen, and his life in danger. His requests began small, simple favors that lovers commonly offer one another. A plane ticket, a hotel bill, a temporary loan. Yet each request grew into something larger, until the women found themselves borrowing immense sums on his behalf. Simon played on the most vulnerable parts of the human experience. He created intimacy so deep that the women believed helping him was proof of their devotion. He mixed fear with affection, urgency with tenderness. By alternating between emotional closeness and frantic claims of danger, he trapped his victims in a cycle of love and fear that made it nearly impossible to step back and see the truth. This was not a romance. This was a psychological performance. And the cost was almost unimaginable, when doubt became impossible to ignore. Despite the strength of the illusion, the cracks eventually appeared. Some women noticed inconsistencies in his travel stories or his constant emergencies. Others wondered why a billionaire needed loans that ordinary people struggled to repay. His injured bodyguard appeared in multiple photos with suspiciously similar wounds. His explanations often felt rehearsed, too neatly delivered. Yet even as doubts surfaced, many of his victims pushed them aside because love can quiet rational thought. They believed their loyalty was saving a man they cared about, unaware that their trust was the very thing he depended on destroying. The emotional toll was devastating. One woman described sitting alone at night, surrounded by loan papers she could not pay back, listening to Simon plead for help through voice messages filled with fear and pressure. Another shared how she avoided telling her parents, ashamed of the debt she had accumulated. Their isolation became another weapon in his arsenal. Shame kept them silent while he continued exploiting them. Realizing the truth came crashing down only when some women dared to investigate his identity. When they searched his name beyond social media, they uncovered articles, criminal records, and charges that linked Simon Leviev directly to Shimon Hayut, the fraudster wanted by Interpol. The discovery shattered not only their illusions but their entire worlds. The man they believed they would marry was a con artist who had stolen millions. But instead of collapsing, these women began fighting back. They contacted journalists, shared their stories, and helped expose the global scam that had devastated countless lives. Their courage ignited a wave of investigative reporting. Newspapers across Europe connected the dots, tracing the same pattern from Norway to Sweden to Finland and beyond. The man who had once hidden behind private jets and luxury hotels suddenly faced international scrutiny. His carefully built identity began collapsing under the weight of the truth. The arrest and the surprisingly light sentence. In 2019, Interpol issued a red notice and Simon was arrested in Greece. Yet the legal consequences were far from what the world expected. Instead of being prosecuted for millions in fraud, he was charged only for older, unrelated crimes in Israel, involving forged checks and identity theft. The enormous global scam that had destroyed lives across Europe did not reach the courtroom. He received a 15-month sentence but served only 5. Women who lost everything watched him walk out of prison in 2020, smiling for the cameras and stepping back into a life of luxury as if justice had barely grazed him. A divided public and a disturbing cultural mirror. The Netflix documentary catapulted him to global infamy. Public reactions split sharply. Some viewed him as a predator who manipulated emotions with surgical precision. Others disturbingly praised him for outsmarting banks and exploiting a system obsessed with wealth and appearances. This fractured response revealed an uncomfortable reality. His scam succeeded not only because he was manipulative, but because society often equates luxury with legitimacy. So many believed him simply because he looked rich. Meanwhile, his victims faced years of financial recovery, emotional trauma, legal battles, and public exposure. Many received no restitution and remained tied to the scandal long after Simon returned to social media, portraying himself as a misunderstood businessman. As we close this story, remember that the most dangerous lies are the ones wrapped in love, luxury, and promises that feel too perfect to question. If this video opened your eyes, or if you want to explore more true crime cases where love twists into betrayal, make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more untold stories to light. Thank you for watching and stay safe, because the next story might be closer to home than you think.